it's gone well. Manny's done a really good job coming in and getting adjusted. Obviously, year 2 with Coach Yursich has been helpful as well. And then continuing to build in the area on special teams with Stacy.
I do think there is a formula that's not complicated. It's not earth-shattering. I think every defensive coordinator across the country tries to preach the same things. I don't think anybody's saying let's not get turnovers. But you got to do a great job versus the run. You got to create negative plays because you got to put people in long yardage situations, right? This is a fact. The most turnovers happen on 3rd down and long.
I think it's really important. I think everybody in the relationship with their family is different. I think some guys, they maybe talk to mom more, maybe talk to dad more, or maybe it's not mom and dad, maybe it's guardian or uncle. But those conversations are very, very important to have in those relationships. To have somebody at home that has your back and that unconditional love is going to be there is really, really important.
Different direction, especially because you're Letterman. When you're recruiting, how much do you emphasize the alumni network and kind of the professional aspect of it after football?
It's huge, right? I know that's one of the things that I noticed when I was being recruited, down in North Carolina, where I'm from, is there were Penn Staters everywhere. And, Penn State, I think it's one of those places that they're going to take care of their own. Our alumni base it reaches all over the world. And so that's a huge part when we're recruiting that we utilize.
When you're traveling with the team or just on your own, do you have a story about the most random place you were at when you got a re-arm?
Oh, I can't think of a rant, but I'll tell you, I can't go to an airport, across the country where I don't get a WER when I'm out recruiting or anything like that. So, I mean, it's an all-the-time thing. It's an everyday occurrence, so it's pretty cool.
So in addition to the home games, obviously one of the best home environments, when you're on the road and you and the players see how the fans travel to every away game, what's the impact on you when you walk out on an opposing team's turf and you still see your fans there?
It makes you feel at home. It makes you feel that you have the support and the fans and the alums that are there that have your back when you walk into opposing territory, and it's a good feeling that it's you battling with those guys, but you also have the fans that come out and support wherever we play, and so that's an important piece of for us.
My grandmother passed away when I was 5 years old on my mother's side. And my mom always told me whenever you see 11:11 on the clock, that's her saying hi. And ever since she's passed away, I can't explain how many times I just randomly grab my phone, randomly look at a clock. I'm not even thinking about it, and I see 11:11 all the time. So that's the significance for me is when I wear the number, she's with me, my family's with me, and it brings me down to back to the level ground when I'm nervous or anxious, because I remember I've got people with me, I got people supporting me, so that's why I wear 11.
That I've seen a lot of matrix moments is Dan Connor. Now, his voice is in the linebacker room, especially when the linebackers are a question mark, and then you have that competition at middle linebacker. What kind of wisdom has he been able to impart on the guys along with you, to maybe get them ready and balance them out?
Right. Playing linebacker at Penn State is a unique thing, right? I mean, that's just not an experience that most people have had. Dan Connor has. So for these guys, for Dan to be able to say, I've literally been in your shoes. How could they not respect him? Dan's a great coach. He's also a great teacher. So whether it's how to prepare, how I did things, how to see things, how to just deal with the demands of what it means to be a football player on this campus, all those things. I mean, that's a legend you're talking to right there. So I think it's been so beneficial for our guys and their development.
Welcome to Football Letter Live. Tonight we're kicking off our 3rd season, and we'll continue to connect all alumni to Penn State football and let you know how you can get involved and cheer on the Nittany Lions. Joining the program this evening is Penn State Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics, Patrick Kraft, and Letterman Shelly Hammonds, who starred at 2 positions for Penn State, including setting the freshman record for running yards in a game. Football Letter Live is member supported, and we're so grateful to have your support. If you're a Penn Stater, you belong in the Alumni Association. And if you love Penn State, you're in the right place. This is Football Letter Live. Well, welcome back into Football Letter Live. We have a great program for you this evening. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, John Petishnak. John, can you believe it's football season already?
I know. I feel like just a couple of days ago, we were getting back from Florida from the bowl game, and here we are. Just had summer commencement here at University Park. First week with students and faculty back on campus. You can totally tell it's a different feel. But yes, it always feels like it gets here before we know it. And so season opener a week from today.
Ready or not, here it comes, right? We have a great program lined up. I mentioned Dr. Patrick Kraft is with us, Penn State's new Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics, already making a big impact in just his short time here in Happy Valley. And then Shelly Hammonds, right? Penn State football legend coming on the show. I'm looking forward to diving into both of those conversations.
Yeah, Dr. Patrick Kraft joining Penn State at an exciting time, joining the Big Ten at an exciting time, and then certainly Shelly Hammonds, for what I feel like probably maybe one of the more underrated players of that era. Really great player, has a really interesting personal story. We're going to ask him about that. In South Florida, still stays in touch with Letterman, and so he's going to be sharing those stories. And also have the new VP for Intercollegiate Athletics, going to get his thoughts on Penn State and kind of where we will be moving forward. But certainly an exciting time for Penn State and for the Big Ten for Dr. Kraft to be joining us.
Yeah, well, let's dive right in. Pat Kraft, Penn State Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics, started July 1. An accomplished administrator at Boston College, Temple, Loyola, and your alma mater, Indiana. 3-time Indiana Hoosier grad. I think you talk about people winning the press conference, and when you talk about winning national championships in football, right? That's the stuff that our fan base wants to hear, right? You truly believe that in your heart. Welcome to Football Letter Live. We're glad to have you here on the program.
Well, no, it's great. I'm happy to be here. It's been a whirlwind, needless to say, but it's really good. I'm happy to be here. I'm just watching the intro. It's got me going. It doesn't take much to get me going about this time of year, but we'll be kicking off an hour from today and a week from today. At that point, it's going to be. I'm really excited about that. We're in a dogfight right now with West Virginia and women's soccer, and we got a big weekend in front of us with volleyball and men's and women's soccer and field hockey. So it's an exciting time. Yeah,
you mentioned that you're ready to go. We had coffee this morning, right around 8:00. You're a high octane kind of guy already. I
didn't have my coffee yet, though. That when I saw you,
you were ready. You were ready to go. Walk us through the first couple months at Penn State, and what's that time been like for you, and what stood out so far to you about Nittany Nation?
Well, it's been great, honestly. It's been. I got in June. To kind of in a transitional phase, which I think really helped. I was able to get in and meet with the coaches and get around, get a better feel for where we are and where we need to go. And then, I wanted to really hit the ground running on July 1, and I think we have. Now, I would just say one of the takeaways for me is the community and the support. And you look at it from afar, and I've played here, and I've been an administrator on the other side, and it is overwhelming when you come to Happy Valley. but it is everything and more that people talk about. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, the community is incredibly supportive, very passionate. It's all the things that I really love about it, and why this was a dream job for me to take this and run with it. But my takeaway has been the people are really good. We got some things to fix. I'm not sugarcoating it. We got a lot of work ahead of us, but I will say this, and if you hear me talk, it really is here. It's truly just about us. If we take care of our business, do what we need to do, we're gonna be just fine, and we can accomplish anything we want. But we've got to be able to stay focused and take care of our own business, and for that's why I'm fired up. I think we have a great opportunity in front of us.
So, Pat, you're in the Beaver Stadium media room. That's where you were introduced by Dr. Bendaputi. I remember that day you were talking about your family. They were there. You had some photos on the field. You seem like a really big family guy, placing emphasis on family. What was it like to share that moment with your family, getting photos and having them be there with you?
Well, yeah, it's the first time I've been back in this podium. In fact, there's 400 Pop Warner kids yelling in the hallway right here. So if you can hear them, it's pretty cool. It was really an emotional day for me. I came up the steps, and I saw Spider, like the first person I saw, and Spider is famous in our in the world of college football, and so that was like, oh my gosh, this is real. And then the anxieties of the press conference, and that was over, and those gates, and I get goosebumps thinking about it, holding my son and my daughter's hand, and my wife with me, and my mom with me. My mom's got the waterworks going the whole time, and just opening those gates and walking hand in hand with my children, and my face on the scoreboard, which should never happen in any way, shape, or form. But I just got very, very emotional. Like, this is, I thought about my dad who passed away, several years ago, and just my family and what it took really to get here. And as my dad always said, this was the mountaintop, and I alluded to that in my presser. So it's really emotional. It still is. I still pinch myself. And I hope I'm doing that for 50 more years, because I tell people here, don't take this for granted. Don't take 91,754 season tickets holders for granted. Don't take 107,000 in the building for granted. Don't take Happy Valley for granted. And I think my family and my children are so very happy to be here, and the community's been really amazing.
Yeah, I alluded back to that press conference in my intro where you're on record, right? You believe we can win national championships here and across the board at Penn State, including Penn State football. Talk about kind of what gives you that belief.
Oh, it's been done. So the blueprint's written. So it's not like we're trying to reinvent the wheel here. We've won multiple, I think it's 81 national championships. So I'm not saying anything that hasn't been accomplished. Right. I've been asked, can you win a national championship in football? And I was like, yeah, that's the goal. That's what we're going to do, period. I'm not wavering on that. Now we got to do everything we can. And Paul, we talked this morning, it takes everybody. It takes the alumni, it takes Penn State Nation. It takes every person to pull together and be together in this. But when we are this strong, there is nothing that can stop us. And so, yeah, we can win national championship, and we should win multiple national championships in football. We got to we got to continue to do the right things in support of the program. But I'm going to tell you, I got two national championship. I got a soccer team and a men's and women's soccer team that can win. I got a field hockey team that can win the national championship. And volleyball's already proven just in the fall where we're at, what they can do, with Russ and what he's done, what he did in the past, and Katie's doing a great job. So, my goal is to win national championships. Now we'll do it the right way. We're going to not, we're not going to cut corners, and that's the way it's always been here. And that's why I love being a part of this.
Pat, you know this as well as anyone. College athletics has changed just as much in the last 3 or 4 years as probably the previous 2 decades. So knowing that within that context, when you look ahead, what are some of your most immediate priorities and areas of focus here at Penn State?
Well, I will say this early on. I think we really, if you look at where we've kind of trying to focus our hiring, we've been interviewing mental health specialists right now. We're going to do that. We're going to bring social workers in. We got to focus on the mental health piece. We're hiring sports performance, sports nutrition. Those are the pieces that really help your foundation. And I've said this before: if you don't have a strong root, you are not getting wonderful fruit. And we've got to work on that foundational piece. It's not the sexy things that people always talk about, but mental health is more important now. I mean, it's incredible what you see. These young men and women go through a lot, and COVID. I mean, by the way, this is campus wide. This is not just athletics. So I think I want people, our folks to understand that is really a priority, and so we really are focusing in on that. We got to work on some of our facilities. Our Olympic facilities are woefully behind, and it even makes what they've been able to do even more impressive. So we got to do that. We got to work on some of our travel issues and how we get in and out of State College, and then look at the world of NIL is real. I think we're in a much better spot now, with Success with Honor and our group licensing coming on, and we're able to sell jerseys and jerseys and getting with our partnerships, our corporate partners, to understand how this works and talking to donors about it. So, really those are the types of things early on. That's why that June period was really important for me, because I think that's how we start to really build, I've said it, build that foundation to get us to where we need to be.
I don't even know where to hone in on that answer, John, right? Do we like Shar winning a national championship, right? Upgrading facilities in soccer and the field hockey is something that we talked about. But I think kind of the topic that has taken college athletics by hold has been the topic of name, image, and likeness, right? I think a lot of alumni are still trying to figure out, well, what does NIL mean, or what does NIL mean, right? And
right.
They're trying to figure all that out. As an institution, kind of talk about how important that is. Right, wrong, indifferent. It's here to stay. So talk about what that means for Penn State athletics.
Well, you hit it on the head, and even my little guy's here, so he's fired up. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
You probably want him on that before me. He's better at this stuff. Look at the name, image, and likeness piece is real, and I said it. Look at, we've grown up in this business, having been. It is contrary to everything we've ever thought about. Right? You got kids with $95,000 cars, and they're making money. Now, here's what I will tell you. I'm a supporter of it. I think the general student population's been able to do this and maximize their potential in many areas. I think it's really good. It is hard for all of us to understand and wrap our head around. I'm not dismissing that, but the reality is this is where we're at. And I reference Success with Honor because what I love about what they had established, and I had nothing to do with this. This was here, right. Is it allows all 31 of our programs to be involved. Look at we have to, the way we raise money is going to be different. I think it's important that you either, you want to give the scholarship. Do you want to give to the annual fund? Do you want to give to bricks and mortar? Or, hey, now if you don't and you want to support in other ways, name, image, and likeness is really where it's at. And the reality is people are poaching players. And it's a sad piece of our business, but it's real. And I think we want to make sure that, we are going to do it the right way. We should have the best NIL program in the country, and I believe we're getting there. But all those things, and then it comes down to allowing, I think what people don't realize is the opportunity for athletes that aren't on scholarship, walk-ons. I look at our wrestling program, and the majority of those are athletes who are elite, the best in the country. They aren't on scholarship, right. And so to maximize their ability to pay for things, they can use their social media platforms, their brand to, honestly put money in their pocket to help them do some things, pay for school, for go on a date. And so that's the case for all the athletes. And so I'm really supportive of that. But I think we're getting there, but it is, you're going to hear more and more about it. And it's just that it is the industry. That's where we're at. And, we're doing, like I said, we're doing the group licensing so we can sell all the teams' jerseys and everything like that. So it's a little bit, I'll raise my hand. It's been a crazy year and a half since it's happened. And it's hard to kind of wrap your head around, but got to be nimble.
So scrolling on the bottom of the screen is the link for Success with Honor for alumni who are attending home with us. If you want more information about that, you can visit their website. I know a lot of dedicated alumni grinding really hard there. Here, just a quick follow-up to that question. What sponsorship would Pat Kraft have gotten at Indiana? Would it have been a Nick's English Hut?
Oh, that's it. How did you know? Yeah, hey Paul, it starts and stops with Nick's English Hut. It had nothing to do with my ability on the field. In fact, yeah, my uniform is my jersey hangs at Nick's English Hut, and once again, it had nothing to do with the ability that happened out here. My social ability was really where I excelled in college. It is what it is. We play to our strengths, Paul.
There you go. There you go.
I appreciate you knowing that. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a Nick's English Hut reference tonight. We'll take it. We'll take it.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I'm going to be locked and loaded when I'm there in November here.
We'll be right there with you.
Oh, yeah. Don't you worry. That game is real for me.
Yeah.
Pat, you talked about, success involves, everybody contributing. And we have the largest alumni base in the world. So whether it's name, image, likeness, or a lot of other areas, how big of a role can our alumni play? And in what ways can they get involved in terms of, really being part of Penn State athletics success?
Well, I was just going to say, I got to thank y'all for what you do. I think that is one of what makes us so powerful is our alumni base. I mean, not only the passion, but the commitment. The fact that there was a merchandise company that we broke every record they had in 12 hours. This was recent. And it was across the board. Home field, which is a shirt company, whatever. And it speaks volumes to who we are. It's one of those things that I think, once again, I say you can't take that for granted. We took the kids to Disney World for a quick weekend and to surprise my daughter. And, you get a "we are" everywhere. And it's just all over the place. I think what we have to look at is we got to really go national. We go coast to coast, border to border. We've really got to continue to maximize that. And you all do an amazing job. And we've got to help work together. And, I think athletics is just one piece to this amazing institution. And I think we're in there and we got to play the role. We got to be a really good partner. But we also give a place where people can come together and as a community come together and cheer on, our Lions, and then, be there when we're on the road at Purdue and have our presence on the road. But I also believe we create memories. And I think we're in the memory business. And for undergrads and grads and alums, that's what we do. I think that's what athletics role is. I think when we beat Ohio State this year, a lot of people are going to remember where they were at that moment. And when we go to the Rose Bowl and win the Rose Bowl, we'll remember where we were at that moment. And we win a national championship again in wrestling, and we win one in soccer, and you remember those moments. And so I think that's our job. I take that very seriously.
Pat, let's end on a little bit of a fun question. I don't know if your kids are close by, but can you bring them in, give them some of their 15 seconds of fame there?
You say this is Joseph. He's on the Lions.
All right, Joseph, this question's actually for you, okay? Joseph, what's the most fun you've had so far since moving to State College?
What's the best thing we've done? I know the answer. Go-karts at Tussey Mountain. That was pretty good, right? And we do love the creamery, don't we? He's my shy one.
That's awesome.
But
Pat, I know you're going to create.
Tussey Mountain's real.
Yeah, I know you're going to create some memories tonight with the Pop Warner kids and your son being included that. So we'll let you get to that. But thanks so much for joining us on Football Letter Live, and good luck.
Hey, I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. I can't wait to see everybody, and we're just getting started. I appreciate it. Let me know if I can do anything, and I'll talk to y'all later.
Take care. Thanks,
Pat. Appreciate you.
All right, John, I'm ready to run through a wall, right? We're going to beat Ohio State this year. We're going to go to the Rose Bowl and win, and we're going to not just a national championship. I want to be clear. He went on record to say multiple national championships here in football and across the board in all of our sports where we know all of us in this community believe that championships are right around the corner.
Yeah, and that's what you want to hear. If you're a coach, if you're a student athlete, if you're an alumnus, you want somebody who's going to be in your corner, who's going to believe in you, who says, we're going to achieve, what other people think we can. And we're just going to, across the board, it's that fierce belief in yourself that I think Personally, I admire a lot in players and coaches because they put in so much time behind the scenes that nobody talks about. And so that's what gives them the confidence. But yeah, that's what you want to hear from your new VP for intercollegiate athletics. It's about all the varsity sports, and it's about the community and getting the alumni involved. And so, yeah, we got to sit tight for the rest of the show. But after that, we'll go on a little jog to get off the energy.
Absolutely. And I think the next guy is going to speak to some of this that we're talking about, right? I mean, he not only talked about winning championships, but doing it the Penn State way, the right way, right? And this success with honor way. And certainly Shelly Hammonds was a huge part of that in the early 90s here at Penn State.
Yeah, so next guest, as Paul said, Shelly Hammonds started at running back and defensive back for the Nittany Lions in the early 1990s, actually played on the first team to compete in the Big Ten, was an all Big Ten cornerback, chosen in the NFL draft, went through 3 camps, as he said. And the next time you're watching a game, you're just sitting around with your friends or your buddies and you want to stump them, ask them who has the record for the most rushing yards in one game as a Penn State freshman. The answer still to this day is our next guest, Shelly Hammonds, 208 at Boston College in 1990. Shelly, welcome to Football Letter Live. We are thrilled that you can join us tonight, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you guys for having me.
Shelly, fantastic to talk to you tonight. John, just jump right in.
So, Shelly, we talked about your time becoming a Nittany Lion. You traveled far during your recruiting trip. Can you walk our fan base through and our alumni base through, how did you become a high school standout to becoming a Nittany Lion here in Happy Valley?
I lived in a small town in South Carolina, Barnwell, South Carolina. But the one thing about that town was that they had a great athletic program for youth, baseball, football, basketball, you name it. I was a baseball and basketball player also, in addition to playing football. And just grew up around super competitive guys. Again, a great network of coaching and people who invested in me, and so wound up being a really good high school baseball player, really good high school football player. Won a couple of state championships in high school in football, played for 2 in baseball, won 1. So just got an opportunity to really show my talents from a young age up through high school, and then got recruited. I was heavily recruited by South Carolina and Clemson, obviously, who were both in South Carolina. And then Penn State kind of came out of nowhere. And my initial, I actually wound up taking a visit. My first time ever getting on an airplane was actually my recruiting visit to Penn State. So it was an eye-opening experience for me. I came there with no expectations. I actually was probably leaning heavily towards going to Clemson. And that trip to Penn State, an opportunity to meet the coaches, some of the players, see the campus, have dinner with Coach Paterno. And by the time I left there and we landed back in South Carolina, I pretty much told my mom that I was going to Penn State. And I'd followed Penn State. Obviously, they had recently won a national championship. Reminded me very much of my high school, my town, a blue-collar town. Played really, really, tough defense and timely offense. And those things excited me about that. And, of course, at that time and even now, obviously, we know Joe was a legend. And having that opportunity to play for a legend, I just felt like I couldn't turn that down. So that's kind of how I wound up at Penn State.
We've had a pretty good history of being able to go down south and recruit some high quality talent to come up here. We must bring you up in the spring and the summer, right before the snow starts to fly around here. But I think about and I'm blanking on the name, but we had a kicker from Conway, South Carolina. I know when you were here, you actually hosted Wally Richardson, who
Yes.
came up from South Carolina. So it's kind of like I met DJ Dozier, was from the Virginia Beach area. We have this really this history of a pipeline coming out of that area.
Yeah, at the time that I was there, I'm thinking that there was at least 4 or 5 guys from the state of South Carolina that were there. We had Ivory Gathers, who came before me. And he was, I actually played against Ivory the year before in the state championship, or the lower state championship game in South Carolina. He was a very good high school player. We had Cliff Dingle, who was there at the time, came behind me. I think he came along with Wiley Richardson. Obviously, Bobby Ingram, to me, probably, if not the best wide receiver to ever play at Penn State. Top 2 or 3, no doubt. And obviously, Wiley Richardson, Chris Mazik, who was a defensive lineman, played nose tackle for that, for the team that went undefeated. So we had a strong South Carolina pipeline at that time coming to Penn State.
I don't know who the best receiver was in Penn State football history, but I want to be in the room with about a dozen of them talking about it, right? with OJ and Bobby, and get Chris Godwin in the room, and right. That's going to be more entertaining than anything else is the debate around who was the best.
Yes. Absolutely. But Bobby, I mean, you can't take it away from him. When you talk about ultimate playmaker, I mean, you go back and watch that guy's highlights. I mean, they speak for themselves. There's very few guys in Penn State history at wide receiver that have the highlight reel that Bobby Ingram has. The guy was amazing. He's an amazing guy. And think about it, he was cut short because the 1 year that him and Rick Sales got themselves in a little trouble, and he was actually suspended for a year. So people forget that Bobby missed the whole entire year of football, and he was going to be a phenomenal football player for us. So was Rick Sales, who they'd moved to wide receiver at that time, and he wound up missing his final year. But Bobby Ingram was an amazing football player. Obviously, OJ was amazing, probably an amazing athlete. I mean, you talking about amazing athlete. That dude was an amazing athlete. Get him on the basketball court. He was a baseball player, very similar to me. And there was some heated and some great basketball games. I can tell you. Yeah. At the old gym over there, we had some really good basketball players on the football team.
Hey, Shelly, you brought up Bobby Ingram's highlight video, but it might not surprise you. We were able to uncover a highlight video of you playing. Vince, can you roll that?
And you're up here with me. Yeah, well, I'm not as tough as either one of them. Burmeister deep down the middle, goes for the home run, intercepted Hammonds. Hammonds picks it off. 4:15, 20. Now they went to the well one time too often, and Hammonds made a pay. Well, the game plan was to try to attract the safeties up. Levi. Coleman in motion. Thomas coughs it up. And Penn State has the ball. We've seen it time and again this afternoon.
That was a great game against Michigan State.
Back, he's Ioka Jackson with a pressure again. He throws to the near side.
Shelly, what's going through your mind when you see these highlights?
How raw I was, honestly and truly. I hate to say it. I go back and I look at some of these highlights as a cornerback, because I really was at times I was just playing off of pure talent, pure skill. I was not very technical at that time. I was still learning the position. I was only 2 years in, and people forget. I really the spring in the summertime I actually was at the hero position, which at that time was a strong safety. That's where I was and was planning to start there. And then they moved me to the cornerback position because I want to be one of the best cover guys on the team. So I look at that guy and I see a guy who was probably suited to play safety and really wanted to play Darren Perry's position at the hero position, but wound up just again making it at cornerback and being able to get drafted, and it's just kind of an amazing thing for me. Playing on one side of the ball and going and being drafted on the other side. So that's what I see when I see that game.
It's amazing. Look at watching the teams that we're playing against, right? I mean,
Yes,
we did not, and still don't, right, shy away from the top competition in the country, USC, Tennessee.
absolutely not. No, we played all comers. Played all comers. Didn't turn anybody down.
Yeah, and look, this was the era of anybody, anywhere, anytime, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Shelly, how did playing two positions impact your time at Penn State? Because we know players go through that transition. It's not always the easiest thing. How did that go for you?
I think for me, obviously, again, it's better if you get more time at one position because you really learn the position. I moved around a lot at Penn State. The great part for me was that I was a multi-sport player and multi-position player in high school, so none of this was new to me. I mean, I really did this all the time in high school. I never came off the field in high school, so I was a punt returner, I was a kick returner, I was the starting tailback, starting free safety. So for me to make that transition, it really wasn't that hard because I'd done it so much throughout my career.
We talked a little bit off camera about your time in the NFL. You and your career, if I'm not mistaken, right? You played for really two legendary football coaches in Joe Paterno and then Denny Green in the NFL. Talk about kind of what stood out most to you about playing for Joe Paterno.
The disciplinary part of it, just how much he preached. Obviously, football was very important to him. This poster behind me obviously shows the winningest coach ever to do it at the college level. So winning was extremely important to him, but also creating great young men, and also giving life lessons and letting you know that eventually one of these days this thing's going to be over and you're going to have to do something else with your life. And so I think he was, mentally trying to prepare each one of us for whatever day it comes in. It's going to come, some earlier, some later, but it's going to come a day that, you're going to have to walk away from the game. You're going to have to do something else with your life. And are you prepared to do that when the game is over?
Shelly, we talk with Letterman. They'll remember something Joe Paterno said in a meeting 30 years before, and they'll find themselves thinking about it when they're talking with their family or, they're in their jobs and building their careers. What life lessons, kind of stay with you to this day that you learned at Penn State?
I think just perseverance. Things, even, after what people don't realize, after the Boston College game, where I rushed for 208 yards, we go and we play Alabama the next week, and I was supposed to start the following week and really didn't play that much the following week and the rest of that season. And I think you go from the highest of high to the lowest of low. For me, I thought that was my moment. This is where, you're going to be the next superstar running back at Penn State. And, things just didn't turn out that way. And, I had my moments where, I was angry and I was, I'm sure, like today's times, I'd have been thinking about jumping in the portal because, you get wrapped up in, yourself sometimes. And, I was able to get myself refocused and realize that, you deal with, you learn how to deal with controversy and deal with tough times. And it only makes you stronger later on in life because you learn how to adjust and deal with tough situations. So for me, I think just the lessons I learned there was just learning to deal with tough times and making the best out of it. And when that opportunity comes and it presents itself, that you're ready. So when it didn't work out for me on the offensive side of the ball, and I got my chance to get back on defense, I made up my mind that I wasn't going to let that opportunity slip. I even had some coaches who tried to convince me to come back to the offensive side of the ball. At that time, Kenny Jackson was the wide receiver coach, and he had mentioned to me, why don't you come play wide receiver for me? And I was like, Kenny, I'm not ever moving again. I'm not coming back to the offense. I'm staying on the defensive side of the ball. and it wound up being a great thing. Again, wound up getting drafted and had an opportunity to play for the Vikings. And Coach Green, he was a great coach to play for. Definitely a player's coach, and there were some great coaches on that coaching staff too. Tony Dungy was the defensive coordinator at the time when I was there. So, and then obviously we know about his amazing story. Brian Billick, who won a Super Bowl in Baltimore, was on that team, was the offensive coordinator. So there was some tremendous coaching. I had an opportunity to be around some great people, and those life lessons I learned and the opportunities I had being around those guys, I tried to take them with me every day.
I want to digress for a second here and talk about that Boston College game. So you just saw in the commentary, Joe Clifford, that's my father, said that we were at that game. We traveled up to Boston to see that game that day. And I remember it like yesterday, because I don't know that I've seen my dad as mad as he was that day. We were sitting in traffic, couldn't get to the stadium, but we could see it. We could see the stadium. And my brother and I said, "Oh, what do the tickets look like?" And my dad pulls the tickets out, and we each take one, and we're looking at it, and we jump out of the car and run towards the stadium so we don't miss the beginning of the game while he has to go find a parking spot. And so I remember that. I remember the Blue Band traveled up to that game, and I think unfortunately the drum major did a flip before the game and broke his leg, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah. What do you remember about the 208 yards and that game and that day in Alumni Stadium up there?
I remember, I'd practiced probably for a couple of weeks. I think I'd actually scored a touchdown in a game or two before that. And mentally, I was ready. I was always somebody running with the football came very natural for me. So it wasn't a situation that I was afraid of or, nervous about. Obviously, not expecting to play at it. There was no reason, going into that situation being nervous. But then when they said, "Hey, Shelly, you're in the game," I just, it was just an opportunity for me to kind of show what I could do. And the things that I did, on the field that day, the guys, they'll tell you, the guys that I played with and that were on the team will tell you that those same exact things that people saw during the game were the things that I was already doing in practice. So it wasn't anything, new to me. Obviously, did I ever expect to, have a 200-yard game in less than 4 full quarters, because I think I didn't even come in until the second quarter of that game, almost the end of the second quarter. And I never expected that to happen, but it didn't feel odd to me because it was I was used to being successful coming from high school and being an all-state running back and having the ball in my hand just felt natural to me.
Shelly, we were talking before we went on air. You're in South Florida. There are lettermen that you stay in touch with, and you said, you'll talk about football, but even more so, you'll talk about, family, what's going on in your family, life lessons that you're going through. What does that bond mean to you to know that you have these lettermen in your corner, your former teammates, and just how special is that connection that you share?
Oh, it's very important to have those connections and have people that you've been through tough times with, and that you can celebrate the good and the bad times, and just the opportunity to just relax, to talk about things in general, funny stuff. We've got a group chat of guys. I think it's me and Andre Powell, Lee Rubin, Justin Williams, and Tyoka Jackson, where we communicate pretty much almost every day, just about world things, family stuff. Obviously, Penn State football is always in that group chat at least once a week, and I'm sure as the season rolls in next week, it will be on there probably every day. So just an opportunity to just kind of reminisce or just enjoy life and have people that you can trust and talk to about things going on in your life.
Lee Rubin, shout out to Lee, a fan or a friend of the program here. I always think that. So we've become a fan of Lee's, certainly from his time as a Nittany Lion, but now as a motivational speaker when he talks about heat and pressure and how that kind of forges character and kind of builds kind of what people truly are as leaders, right? And when they go through challenging times. You played a number of years in the NFL. Take us through your post-football career, though. Like when we talk about Penn State preparing student athletes for a lifetime of impact, you've certainly been able to do that, whether it's been your time as an educator and your time with the Federal Probation Office and now as a special agent in the FBI.
Yeah. Obviously, Joe always, pushed being good citizens, being good people overall. So that, that's kind of the mantra that I think most guys, try and live by, and which I think, why working for the FBI works for me. It's about following the rules, following the law. It's not personal. That's one thing I always tell people that, that we arrest, that it's never a personal thing. It's just business. But yeah, it's the two things are synonymous with each other, Penn State football and the way that Joe taught us, and kind of the way that, the FBI works, very much policy driven, very much, follow the law. It fit with what I wanted to do. And also, I work in violent crime, so I've done a lot. It fits my lifestyle. For me as an athlete, it fits me. Having to do that a lot, but having to chase people, I've done that in the past. And just kind of almost, the two kind of meld together because of almost like having a game plan. The only difference is that the people that typically I'm investigating, they have to follow the rules, and I do. But it's a challenge investigating people and kind of coming to a culmination of a case when you can all put everything together, and it leads to that culmination of arresting somebody or finalizing a case. So the two football is kind of the same way, where you plan and you kind of practice for it, and you go out and you compete against your competition. That's kind of how it works out for me.
Shelly, we talked about kind of like the strong Letterman bond. We know that James Franklin, he wants to keep Letterman involved, always inviting them back, wants them to work out in Happy Valley in the offseason for guys in the NFL. How often or how do you stay connected to the current program? What does it mean to have the current head coach see the value in having Letterman being connected with the program and knowing that, you're still welcome in Happy Valley and, you're welcome to get back anytime that you can?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to have that connection between the old guard and the new guard. Because I'm close friends with Wiley Richardson, I do have a chance to get up there every now and then. It's been maybe a year or two since I've been up. I had an opportunity to meet Coach Franklin, took some pictures with him. Obviously having Terry Smith on that staff. Terry was on the team when I was there. I think I was a freshman, he was a senior. So I had an opportunity to play with Terry, and we stay in contact, not as often as I would like, but obviously he's super busy. But he's kind of that gatekeeper between him and Wiley. And then obviously I do think that there was a time that there was kind of a shift or a break between the old guard and the new guard. And I think Coach Franklin did a great job of kind of mending those fences and getting some of the new guys and some of the old guys together and inviting the old guys back to campus. And I think they've done a better job of that over the last 3 or 4 years of trying to make sure that they get guys on campus, inviting guys back to be involved in programs or be involved in the camps with the kids. So I do think that he's done a really good job of doing that.
So we have our season opener, right? We go on the road for a Big Ten game at Purdue. What will you have your eye on in that game?
I think probably what everybody else is going to have their eye on, obviously, Sean Clifford, 6-year senior. I know that sometimes Sean gets, he gets a tough time from the fans. I'm actually happy that he's back. I think having that type of leadership, coming to a tough road game at Purdue, and right after that, a couple games after that, we go to Auburn travel to Auburn. I think I really like Sean as a quarterback, and I think if we can kind of get our offensive line together, I think that's been the biggest struggle the last couple of years, and not having a sure backup where Sean really there were times where he couldn't rest because of if he wasn't on the field, our chances of winning kind of went down. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Seeing Sean have 2 years under the new offensive coordinator. And then just always interested in, when the season's over and the new season rolls in, it's a fresh start every year. You never know what's going to happen. Obviously, I believe that we have the talent to win the Big Ten. There's some pieces that got to fall together for us. I think Coach Franklin, when you look at this team, I think, people are, they give him a hard time sometimes, but I think he's built this team to try and beat Ohio State, and you have to. I mean, let's be honest. They're the big dogs in the conference right now. They're that proven thing that's consistently done it every year. I think defensively, you can tell that we built our defense around beating Ohio State, and I think the offense has been built around trying to put points up. And for me, if you can beat Ohio State, you can beat anybody in the conference. It's just that simple. They've put the mark on the conference, and they've showed this is what it takes to win a conference. We've done it one time before, and I think we have the ability to do it again.
Absolutely. I think about Penn State's moniker as linebacker U, right? And we've certainly have a great tradition of producing linebackers. But Justin King used a term with us the other day where he called Penn State lockdown U. Right. You mentioned Darren Perry, you mentioned Lee Rubin, yourself. I think of some of our like Jaquan Brisker and now Joey Porter. We have just a story to history in that secondary as we do at the linebacker corps.
Yes, absolutely. There's some other great corners that were there. Leonard Humphreys was there when I was there, played multiple years in the league. Obviously, Darren Perry, like you said, was the reason why I wanted to play the hero position, the strong safety position, because of the way he played it. His senior year, he had a phenomenal year. I think he had 6 or 7 interceptions, multiple returns. Just having an opportunity to watch Darren play made me want to play in that secondary. So, and it's been amazing watching the effect that Terry has had on that secondary in the corner room and the safeties. And here's a guy who was a phenomenal wide receiver. Terry people will tell you that little guy was a phenomenal little wide receiver. If he was 6 foot and 180 pounds, he'd have been very, very high on somebody's draft board too. But you can see the offensive mindset of Terry in the corners and how he teaches them and how they play the game. So it's been really, really nice having him back there, and the fact that he's in that cornerback room and the success they've had has been amazing.
All right, Shelly, we'll end on a fun question here. Say a high school senior, they can go anywhere to play in the country. What's your recruiting pitch to them? Why should they come to Happy Valley?
I think you come to Happy Valley, first of all. Obviously, playing at Beaver Stadium is absolutely amazing. Walking through that tunnel and playing for 100,000 people. And I think that, like we talked about, I think that recently came out that as far as the number of guys playing in the NFL right now, Penn State has the most. I think we're a proven product as far as putting guys in the league. I think over the last 6 or 7 years, we've proved that we can. Our guys go to the combines and they test well. I think that's the one thing the biggest thing I think they've improved on is the training that they do now. let's be honest, these guys, everybody who comes there now wants to play in the league. And I think Coach Franklin and the training staff and the speed and conditioning guys have really, really done a great job getting these guys ready for the next level. There's none of these kids that are coming there that don't want to play at the next level. And I think before, that wasn't pushed as much at Penn State with Coach Paterno was education or whatever. And obviously guys went and they played in the league. But I think now it's catamount that these guys know that, hey, we're going to do everything we can and we're going to prepare you for the next level of competition.
Well, Shelly, as our alma mater says, may our lives swell thy fame, and you are certainly swelling thy fame of dear old state with all that you did here in your career, and we're truly grateful for that. Thanks for joining us on Football Letter Live.
Thanks for having me, guys, and of course, as always, we are
Penn State.
Thanks, Shelly. Appreciate you.
Great to catch up with Shelly Hammonds. I mean, we're about the same age, right? So it's kind of a contemporary of mine, and remembering him from his playing time here. We kind of, and I think you do this a little bit too, John, right? We kind of trend towards the people who were on the team here at Penn State while we were in school, or while kind of those kind of contemporaries. And I remember that game at Boston College like it was yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's a great memory. That's the first I've heard the story about jumping out of the car with the ticket, so I'll have to ask Joe about that the next time I see him.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I think that there's a special connection knowing that, you're at Beaver Stadium or on the road, such as you were seeing, people your age playing for Penn State. I remember seeing, Paul Puslesny on campus and just thinking, oh my God, there goes the best linebacker in the country. And, it was just, there's a special connection there, or a special affinity. And also just great to again, I think like Shelly's maybe one of the more underrated players in Penn State. You might not realize, of course, this is before social media and before, all of that. And so certainly great to catch up with Shelly and to hear that he's connected with other Lettermen, and, Penn State is still top of mind for him.
Yeah, John, I want to give a shout out to all of our viewers tonight. I see Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania, Chicago, Mike Gelati up in Nepa from Music, Pennsylvania, certainly Joe Clifford in Cunningham. But again, welcome to everybody who's tuning in all around Nittany Nation. Why don't we go ahead and bring we save him for the end, but certainly the star of the show, Vincent Lungaro. Vincent, how are you doing tonight?
I'm muted. We're off to a great start there. That'll make the low light package. I'm doing great, Paul. You're far too kind. Obviously, I am not the star of the show. The star of the show would know to unmute himself before he comes on camera.
Well, hey, I saw scrolling on the bottom of the screen, but bring us up to date with what's going on over at Jeffrey Field and women's soccer.
Yeah, so a big clash with another top 25 team, West Virginia, and it's currently 2-0 for soccer lovers, of course. Penn State in the second half we're 1-up at halftime and have now increased their lead to 2-0, so they're well on their way to their second win of the year. Beat Duquesne in the second game of the year, and then of course drew a tough match with Georgetown in the opener. So they're well on their way to backing up their mark as preseason Big Ten favorites.
I got to tell you, it was a high traffic area this morning at the Starbucks here on the corner of College and Burroughs. James Franklin came in and got his order of coffee. I was there with Pat Kraft, and then Ali Schlegel came by. One of the stars and All-American of our women's soccer team. And she was really, really fired up already about tonight's game. West Virginia, perennial, top 20, top 25 power. But they play a real physical brand of soccer. And so Allie she remembers the 2019 game when we went down there and tied. And it was kind of a real physical game. The game here last year where we beat them 2-0, and it looks like we're on track for another clean sheet, if you will.
Yes, very much so. When I covered the women's soccer team back in 2015, of course, the year they won the national championship, they played West Virginia in the playoffs that year. And yes, I remember West Virginia was very, very physical, and there were some heated moments in that game. So seems like they haven't changed much in that regard.
Yeah. Sticking with soccer for a second, I know we're also big Sam Coffey fans, right? Sam now playing for the Portland Thorns, but has also been called up to the U.S. women's national team and just announced that she's on the 23-person roster that's going to go through as we move on towards the World Cup now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's like it feels like she's just starting her career too. So to be involved with that setup in that camp, obviously we know U.S. women's soccer has a lot of, just global superstars. So the fact she's involved in that setup, I think just speaks to her ability and her, her tenacity to get after it in her professional career.
Yeah, and certainly the position that she plays, you're the soccer aficionado more than I am, but really has a shot to make that World Cup team based on kind of who she's competing against, right? She's not going up against like the Alex Morgans of the world, who probably has her position locked in, but really has a chance to represent the Nittany Lions on the world stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think her form at the club level certainly gives her a great shot too. That's one of the biggest things about international soccer is how you're performing at the club level. And she's been an important part, obviously, for the Portland Thorns the past, I'd say, 6 to 12 months. So yeah. She's got a great shot for it. And obviously we're all pulling her for her. And hopefully she can be in Australia next summer with the team.
That'd be a lot of fun. Vincent, bring us up to date with what's going on the blog. I know we pushed something from the archives. What's going on in the Football Letter blog?
Yeah, a lot of great stuff as always. John's doing a lot of great stuff there. We'll have a ton of stories this season. Looking forward to it, John and I both. The archives story for this coming week against Purdue will be the 2016 game, which everyone probably forgets about because it's the game that immediately followed the whiteout win over Ohio State. But it was a really important game. It was the first time Penn State had been ranked in about, I want to say 4 or 5 seasons. So it was a really important game just to keep the momentum going after that. And I believe they won easily 50-something to 20-something. But yeah, it's worth checking out, just kind of reliving that game. And we'll have that. We'll have a game preview, obviously, for the week. We'll have a lighthearted story next week that I'm going to be writing about players' favorite food stops in State College. So keep an eye out on that. It's just something a little more lighthearted before we get into the nitty-gritty seriousness of another Penn State football season. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, I can't wait for that article. We can get into some debates over Canes versus Big Deans and what is the hot food item for our college athletes?
I will say the most popular one was the field. There were a lot of the offensive linemen that I talked to were just all about the field. So that was probably the one that was mentioned the most.
Absolutely. Vince, thanks as always for all you do behind the scenes to make Football Letter Live run so smoothly.
Yes, and before I hop off, and I'm the producer, so I kind of have the control on this kind of thing. I have to give a shout out to Penn State women's volleyball, also starting this weekend, because if I didn't, my mom would let me hear about it. They're opening up their season against in the Penn State Invitational against UConn, Loyola Maryland, and one more team that I'm blanking on. But women's volleyball off to going to get their season started this weekend. The Katie Schumacher-Cawley era underway. So another great program with rich history getting underway another season.
And look, while we're at it, let's shout out women's field hockey, number 11 in the country. Just had the really long overdue announcement about a new stadium for Char-Moret. Talk about competing on the national level, right? Bronze medalist Char-Moret Curtis, who is our head coach and really has just done an exceptional job, right? If she's not the best in the country, I don't know who is. But women's field hockey off to a great start as well.
Yep, definitely. And then men's soccer also, I believe it's a doubleheader with the women tonight. Men's soccer gets their season underway against Rhode Island. So a lot of great programs kicking off, outside of football. And that's, I think, one of the great things about being at Penn State is all the other Olympic sports are right there and in title contention for conference and national championships.
Well, John, what do you think about that? Vince flexing his muscle as the producer saying, I can't jump off until we might have lost control, John.
He needs to do that more often. Like, that's what we tell people. We're like, Vince is in charge of the show. I mean, he brings us on and, we do our best to keep things going. And Vince talked to the right guys about the food stops, by the way. You listen to the offensive linemen. If you go where they go, they know where to get the best food. And so, but that'll be a good story coming out soon before the season starts.
Absolutely. John, you're now at the helm of the football letter, right? We've got a little glimpse of the addition of Roaring 20s. You're going to be writing the letter this year. Talk a little bit about, kind of what you're looking forward to from the 2022 Nittany Lions.
Yeah, being around the team for as much as we're allowed to be, I really get the feeling that this team has been brooding the last couple of years. I mean, to go back a little bit, coming off the field in Texas for the Cotton Bowl, you think Journey Brown's coming back, you think Micah Parsons is coming back. That's a legit top 5 team. Obviously 2020 unfolds the way it does. Sean Clifford gets hurt last year. I think the fact that they're unranked plays wildly in their favor. I think they love the fact that they're being slotted in as, 3rd or 4th in the Big Ten East. I think this is a team that has legitimate Big Ten title aspirations. There's no reason why they shouldn't. And so they've been a little more low key, this offseason and in the fall. Not that they're not low key in the past, but you get this feeling that like there's some, even higher confidence right below the surface. And they're like, let everybody else talk, let everybody else do the rankings. We're going to come out West Lafayette. And so I really feel like, Mike Yursich is a fiery guy. Manny Diaz, fiery. I mean, we know about James Franklin. And so
yeah.
I know that the recruiting classes for the last 3 years really has this team set up for the future. But I feel like there's a win now mindset with Sean Clifford, in his 6th and final season. You've got Manny Diaz, who knows how long you've got him for. He's got an intensity that you just don't find anywhere. And so I've always said I believe this program is like every year. It seems like when 9-3 is sort of the benchmark, I always believe this program is closer to 10 or 11 wins than 8. And so I think 10-2, 11-1, vying for the Big Ten title. There's no reason why that shouldn't be the benchmark for this season.
Well, I'm going on record 15-0. You heard it here first. National championship returning back to Happy Valley. And look, there's a lot of reason to think about to believe that, right? Shout out to Sean Clifford and Jonathan Sutherland, right? The first 4-time captains, right? There's a lot of experience on this team. We talked about Sean's injury and the impact that had on the team last year, but also PJ Mustapher is now back for his final season here in Happy Valley. So again, I think that the not being ranked, a lot of experience coming back for this team, this silent confidence, and maybe it could even be described as kind of a chip on the shoulder a little bit. I like where we're sitting right now, a week before our first game against Purdue.
Yeah, and even like the question marks, I don't think are question marks. I mean, Adiza Isaac, I wouldn't be surprised if he has an Arnold Ebiketie type season. He hasn't played and he's got to come back, but it's not like, even the question marks, I feel like shouldn't really be question marks. I think after the first couple of weeks, we're going to look back and say, this was a position group or, this was a player who, is going to be a big time contributor this year. And so, but you're right. A week from tonight, we'll be in West Lafayette. Really looking forward to it. I think the fact that I know, folks are making a big deal because it's a night game, but it's, if this were during the season coming off a short week, maybe. Penn State's had 6-7 months to prepare for this Thursday night game. And we all remember what happened the last time an opposing team made a night game a big deal, going to Maryland a few years ago. Didn't quite work out for the Terps. Different situation, but still, I think Penn State will be plenty prepared for next Thursday.
I think, did we drop 70 on them that night, John?
It was definitely in the 60s.
Yeah.
We might have reached 70.
It was close, but hey, want to let everybody know we're going to rerun this episode next week leading up to Purdue, and then we'll have our live episode starting the week after, and they'll run from September 8th all the way through each week to November 22nd. Keep an eye on your inbox, right? Members will receive the post-game email for the season opener at Purdue on Saturday. That'll be September 1st. For the rest of the season, members will receive the post-game football letter email on Mondays by noon. Obviously, everybody is going to get the Saturday edition of the football letter, with the exception of this first one, which will have the rerun of these shows in it. But look, John, we started off strong this year. I don't know how we're going to be able to duplicate kind of this kind of energy and really quality content that we got from our guests tonight.
I think we're going to do it. I think we're comfortable. We're confident. It's just like the football team. We have a sense of, we've been doing this for a few years now. We've upgraded our equipment, so that's always good. And I think it's worth mentioning, we have an awesome team at the Alumni Association. And so, we're keeping Penn Staters connected with the overall football experience. Our game day page is going to be updated throughout the fall. And so membership now includes access to all of our chapters, and they have watch parties every week across the country and across the world. And so certainly we're going to be doing everything we can during, these weekly shows to bring you closer to that. You can also visit our game day page. But you're right, Paul. I feel like mid-season form, week 1, Pat Kraft, Shelly Hammonds. What's the term? Pressure is a privilege, and so let's roll with that.
Absolutely. Football Letter Live, undefeated, 1-0 this week. Looking forward to a great season. Again, thank you all for tuning in. I know we've gone a little bit over the 8 o'clock hour, but thank you for all you do for the university, for the glory, and for the future. We are
Penn State.